Welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
And I'm Todd.
And we will be right back to discuss Destination Heaven and Life After Lightning with Beth Peterson. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Is your life savings wrapped up in your 401k? Are you worried you're paying too much in fees? Ask for Matt. Matt Westbury of Premier Investments can help you with your 401k planning. Matt's a local guy who will sit down and talk with you about what you want from your retirement and give you simple answers you won't find on a confusing 401k website or at an 800 number. Go to askformatt.com. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated. Member FINRA, SIPC.
And we're back. Isn't that magical? It's magically delicious. And we're back with Beth Peterson and Lisa Barta. First, what we didn't cover with our sponsors was Revolution Realty. Todd, do you got that up on the screen? RevolutionRealtyTeam.com. Go there if you want to buy or sell a home. Their interest rates are 5%, which might not seem like a lot when you're just thinking about it, but it's a lot better than 7%. When you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that your home might be worth. So check that out. They also go through a list of how to buy a home. If you're a first-time home buyer, all the different steps. A buyer's process is what it's called. So, yeah, if you have any questions about that and you want to see a really cool thing, go to revolutionrealtyteam.com and check out that home buying process today. Sauce Hockey. I'm wearing a Sauce Hockey shirt. Do I know what it means? No. I don't know what this means. Deeks and dangles. Yeah. But they are incredibly comfortable clothing. And you just go to saucehockey.com. Lisa, Beth, do you know what sauce is? That term? Are you hockey aficionados?
I'm not. No.
Me either.
Do you enjoy a game every now and then? Occasionally. Well, sauce is what players will say if they pass the puck to another player and it like comes off the ice and hovers just perfectly. It doesn't wobble and then it lands effortlessly. Perfect. They put sauce on the puck. So that's where they come up with it. Sauce Hockey. It is a clothing company down in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And part of the proceeds to their clothing line, hats, shirts, board shorts, for women, for men, go towards the
Rescue?
No. The kids with the hockey. What's it called?
I don't know. You have the website right in front of you. You can probably click on it and find out.
I probably could.
Good gracious.
Extras, probably. No. Anyway, part of their proceeds go to helping kids with hockey. And you wouldn't think that there would be a hockey stadium or a hockey ice rink in Arizona. But yeah, part of their money goes towards that so they can teach kids the beautiful art of hockey. Saucehockey.com. Check it out. For the last thing, we will talk about Cards Against Humanity. We're not going to play it, but we can talk about it. Cards Against Humanity is a great party game for horrible people. That's what it says. It says that right on the website. Go there. You can order it for $25, and it comes in beautiful little card stock with great little sayings on it. Makes you laugh and giggle if you're the type that likes to have a few drinks with the family. By the way, family reunion, brought it out. Uncle Bob is twisted. So it's a great icebreaker also. So Cards Against Humanity, go to it. You can download it for free, but don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't do that, because if you pay for it, $25, which isn't a lot, they also give to a local charity in your area. And then that local charity sends you a thank you card and says, Matt, you're so sweet. Thank you for thinking of us. And I had no idea where this was coming from. It was coming from Cards Against Humanity. So thank you, Cards Against Humanity. Go there and get the latest and greatest adult inappropriate game. All right. Now, let's get into the topic of life after death. Okay. There's a whole
Life
thing.
After Lightning.
Life after,
Lightning is the book.
I know, but she had a
after. Okay, that's fine.
I had a death experience.
There you go. Yeah.
What is it called? There's a TV show out right now. You guys watch a lot of TV? We're
quite busy.
You're super busy. All right. So there's a show called Proof of Life After Death. Okay. It's just called Proof.
What's her name from
Flashdance.
Flashdance,
right? She
that
pulls
actress.
the water bucket
her
comes
name?
down. I'm not sure.
Dang
Darn
it.
it. Pull it up.
You got it.
But she is a medical doctor, and she's had a
Near-death experience?
Is it near death?
Jennifer Beals.
Jennifer Beals.
How can you forget her name? She's
I don't know. She's
beautiful
gorgeous.
lady. Yeah.
But I think it's a really interesting show. I think everybody has these questions, and they try not to go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. They don't try to make it really weird. It's just sublime enough that people are like, I'm really interested in this. So it's a very popular subject, and you have lived through this. You have gone through an experience, young lady, that one, you've had a lot of hobbies and jobs and professions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we share that. We also share the fact that we both went to Fort Benning.
Oh, fabulous.
I had a much easier time through Fort Benning, less traumatic. And that's where you had this experience. All right, so you are the author of Destination Heaven and My Journey Back to Life, and also Life After Lightning. Okay, so Destination Heaven, for listeners, that's actually the book about your story of what
Yes.
happened. Yes? Don't get confused out there.
It would be my book of life, death, and back to life.
Very cool.
Not a near-death experience. I died. I stood on the other side.
Right. And it's
Is it
pretty
trippy, Todd?
It's not. Oh, I wouldn't say it's trippy. No, I thought, again, like you said earlier, it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of fluff and things in there. It was just very direct and right to the point. I think this is one of those books that is, when you know that it's nonfiction, if you have similar things in the sense of me being, physically and mentally kind of abused at certain points in my life, you find the connection and it's like, oh, I know this person. I know her. And I obviously don't know you yet, but you have all these connections that I find in this book. And that's why
Parallels.
I just was like, I got done reading it and I was like, I just cannot wait. I had all these, I almost wish I had stopped reading it this morning, so that as I came in, I had the same questions. I lost some of them while I went to sleep, but I just stared at the ceiling and tossed and turned last night, thinking about all the questions I had and how excited I was for the podcast and stuff like that. So it was really, really well written and really a fun book to read, I thought. I mean, obviously there were parts that were not very fun to read, but I mean, that's the reality of the world we live in,
That was your experience with that book. This book was much tougher for me to get past the first 20 pages or so. Yeah, just X out of it is it done? All right, come back to the conversation. Was that other coffee for me, or was that just a backup for you?
It was my second coffee.
All right, never mind then. I have coffee and water.
I have hot water and oils if you want some.
I might try some of that. I might try some of that. Okay, so where were we?
I apologize.
Okay.
You were
So I
crying.
you were
saying,
crying.
this is what I was saying. A Time Traveler's Wife. I think that's the movie. Time Traveler's Wife.
Yes, it is.
I love it because anything that has to do with dads and daughters and just that dynamic of it, just instantly I start breaking down. And in Life After Lightning, you start out, and I had the misconception that I was going to be, I was like waiting. All right, so when does this happen? When does this happen? Of you getting struck. And so when you start out with your mom, I thought, oh my Lord, it's a very difficult thing if that just happened and then you're getting struck by lightning. What was the timeline of this?
July 20th of 1992 was the first
when you got struck.
And
when
then
was
July 19th of 1993, I got struck a second time.
All right, we're going to get into that.
Okay.
And
then my mom, which starts off the beginning of life after lightning, key the word after,
right,
was 2007.
Okay. Because if your mom passed and then you got struck by lightning, it would have been too much for me to mentally handle if I was you. But this book was difficult for me to get through because I just kept having to put it down and
take a break.
Yeah, because there was a lot of really beautiful things that you and your sisters were doing. So many times people reevaluate their lives and their relationships in their lives after somebody has passed. My father does it. Luckily I've only been to 2 funerals in my life, and I'm 40. So
That's why I tried to put that out there like that, to make people do it before.
yeah, you're right. And it was 4 months.
We
4
had
months that
just
you
over 4
packed.
months.
You just
A lifetime.
crammed. Yeah, every day was an
A
adventure.
different holiday, a different adventure, we even showed the hospice people how to celebrate someone's life instead of waiting for them to die and crying through it. We were celebrating.
Well, and see, I'm not a big country fan, but what is it? One country song that says, is it live your life like you might die tomorrow?
No, live your life as if you were dying.
Is that what it
Something
is?
like
Live
that.
like you were dying.
Live
Like you were dying. Yeah, like every day is another
I think
opportunity.
That's Tim McGraw.
Right.
Yeah.
Ah, Tim, you big hunk of man. Yeah. He was at the Jones
But
County Fair last weekend.
We were really thinking about it that way. We just knew that we had to make up for any lost time and
Sure.
any moments because I took 40 chapters and put into Life After Lightning of the things that I most help other people with. And that being one of them, dealing with grief. And I thought this is a beautiful thing to put in there. We're grieving, but we're celebrating her life. And had I not been hit by lightning and died, each night it was my turn to sleep with her and have those giggling moments, was to say, she would hold my hand and say, tell me about heaven. And I had that experience. I could share that with her and make her not afraid.
Yeah, what a wonderfully comforting thing to be able to do, to give somebody.
It was phenomenal.
That's amazing. And that's one thing that's interesting from a different perspective in this book was the idea that because of those near-death experiences, you hear about that all the time from people that are like, oh, I now realize how short this time is. I better take advantage of it. But only when we have these catastrophes happen. It really seems like, I think I've made a comment to Matt a couple times, like, we always talk about bad eating habits and how we're both really bad at it and we can't figure it out. And I always say things, maybe I'll just need to get some kind of wasting disease before I get a slap across the face that says, you better get your stuff together, which makes you think that I was thinking that I would have to have something bad happen for me to go, oh yeah, I really need to make that.
There's a catalyst for people.
Yeah. I wonder why you have to have that catalyst.
There doesn't have to be.
Yeah. For sure.
That should help you put those tools into perspective. It's like I'm giving you a toolbox so that you don't have to wait for the catalyst, so that living your life has a destiny, has a purpose, has some meant to be important thing that you do in your life.
Right.
Make it happen before the clock stops ticking.
How frustrating is it for you? And is it at all? Maybe it's not. For me, it is. Just the 2 funerals that I went to, I saw the same behaviors and then the lapse back to, they would be up on the podium and be very emotional, and they would say, I wish I would have done this and I wish I would have done that, and I had that relationship with this person, and look down into the audience and look at their daughter and say, we're going to reconnect, and then a month later it's exactly the same way it was before, and they're not getting it, and then another funeral happens and you see that emotional peak, and then back to the way it was. Because
people have free will choice.
It's a daily choice.
Every single day, every single moment, you have to make your life have a purpose and truly know that clock is ticking. Every commitment that I do, when I chose, that story, when I chose to come back, it was with a purpose. And it took me a little while to get there because I had this brain injury. I had a lot of physical ailments after the lightning strike. However, I never forgot what I came back here to do. And I don't allow myself to get frustrated by them or angry, because we all have free will choice. If you choose to waste your life and not figure it out when something catalytic happened to you to show you to make it better, that's your choice. I move on. I don't waste my time. There's too many people who do want to change their lives and their perspective and are just looking for one tool out of that toolbox to get them on the right direction.
And it has to do also with your own health. You can't waste your time with all that stuff for your own person. You know what I mean? That's wasting everybody's time.
All right, let's take everybody back, the listeners and the watchers on YouTube. Let's take us back to you were a soldier at Fort Benning.
Yes, in the Army.
And what happened? What was the you were guarding? You were at a post.
I was at the ammunition storage point.
Okay.
And a storm came in. We'll make this a long story short. They can read the book if they choose. A storm rolled in, and I watched lightning strike a tree. I watched lightning hit the razor wire on the fence. I was concerned we were going to have a tornado, kept asking, and I stepped out onto the concrete. Next thing I know, lightning struck, picked me up and threw me anywhere between 13 and 30 feet. I don't know, because I had this wonderful brain injury, that those two words sound the same to me, 13 and 30. So it was a long ways. It entered my feet and through my jump boots, used to have little metal pegs in the bottom.
Right.
Traveled through that, felt like my body caught on fire. It felt like I thought maybe something exploded, like a bomb went off, or I thought maybe I had been shot. I wasn't quite sure. And it was like slow motion, picked me up and threw me and landed me. And I could feel the air whooshing out of me. I could feel the sound of the scream come out of me. And as I hit the concrete, I felt my body bounce just a bit. And all of a sudden, I thought my head blew off. And then I was lifted up out of my body. And I was hovering above, watching. I saw the other guard come running. It was a civil servant guard. And he came running out and just started to reach down to touch me and pulled himself back. I could all of a sudden feel his fear, and almost as though I could read his mind and his thoughts and feel his emotions. And those moments, to me, I quickly felt very sorry for him to have to witness my death. But for me, I was concerned about my family. I wanted to lean forward. I assessed my body and looked, okay, my head is still attached to my shoulders. I was good with that. There were no holes bleeding. I was not obliterated. I felt like it just exploded me into a million pieces.
Right. Was the brain injury from hitting the concrete, or was it from the lightning? Do you know?
The lightning probably.
Okay.
It grounded on my jaw. So I had a spacer bar when I was a little kid put in my jaw. They think it grounded on that.
Oh.
It burnt my jaw, broke my jaw. So anyways, from the moment I hit, I didn't realize all of this, but I died. I went to the other side, went through the light. I was escorted by 3 angels. They all had long white hair, bright blue eyes, and long white robes, different colored corded belts. And I was excited. And I thought, what did I do to deserve 3 angels to escort me to heaven? Did they think I was going to argue? And, I was excited, elated. I mean, and then we went through this crack that was in time into light. And I just propelled through this major changing, beautiful lights. And I arrived at this garden area. You want me to continue on this story?
Well, I was going to ask you. Well, one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I do want to hear more about that, is when I picked up the book, I'm not a particularly, I don't prescribe or subscribe. Is it subscribe?
I don't know.
I don't subscribe to a certain religion.
Sure.
Religion as a household has kind of jaded me, But I do believe that there's something greater.
So you still have faith.
Oh, sure. I'm still religious, but I'm not
prone to one category.
Exactly. So I do believe there's something greater. There's some unknown thing out there that I'm not going to be able to put my finger on. What I liked about your book, when I picked it up and I started to read it, my hope was, because I am a jaded human being, I thought, please don't let this be just have faith. Just read it.
Yeah.
Just read your book. Hold on to that Holy Bible. I didn't get that feeling. I didn't get the preachy feeling.
No,
what I got was the meditation thing surprised me when you brought up meditation, because we've had experiences where very religious people are so anti-meditation. They're into prayer. Prayer is great. But if you call it by a different name,
Right.
then they get really angry.
And I find that very fragile and sad because it all is so connective. And I only had all of that verified to me when I died. And when I was asked to come back after my life review, it was without judgment of any other living human being, because we are all children of God. And it isn't up to any one of us to judge that another person.
Phone's off.
I just recorded the audiobook for Destination
Oh,
Heaven
cool.
last week. So
Oh, awesome.
I'm used to having these on again this week.
You know what's funny is when I got done reading the section that you just talked about, and this is probably the judgmental part of me, I'm like, Beth, lightning struck twice in front of you. Did you not think, come on, here's your sign. Here's a sign that something might be imminent. I mean, that's my first reaction was I was going, I know it. I know the story from talking to you guys. And I was like, so you see lightning strike and crackle on the wire.
That's fair.
And then it hits the tree, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" And I mean, it's ridiculous, of course. How you know those kind of things?
All of a sudden, I heard something. You know, the leaves on the trees were like shivering.
I loved that part of that book.
And
That was a neat,
then
descriptive part.
I heard something, and that was the water. It was
Oh, that's
flash.
right.
That's why I stepped out, because I was like, "What
Flash
is
flood.
that sound?" And remind yourselves, I was born in Oregon. I was raised in Washington and Alaska. We never saw anything like this.
Like that, yeah.
This was completely frightening and fascinating at the same time
Mm-hmm.
to me. I was very scared. I mean, I shouldn't have been. I was a soldier, right?
Thank you. Well, I was just going to say thank you, military, for giving me all these different life lessons.
Hey, I don't put a negative cast on anything. If one of these things had never have happened to me in my life, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Right.
Yeah.
And those life experiences that I have gathered are what helps me write books like Life After Lightning to help all kinds of people. You know, I have no prejudice to one person. If you want somebody to be like you, and you were talking about being jaded from a religious perspective,
right.
If a person in that situation wants someone to be like you, instead of being judgmental, you should lead by example. You should teach them how to be faithful and kind, not judgmental and cast them out of something that you don't think that they're living properly.
Right. And I think that's, again, I have all kinds of notes inside here. Obviously,
Sure.
It's checked marked up quite a bit. But I think it's one thing. I was trying to figure out the difference between forgiveness and just moving on. Because I think that I have just kind of like, I learned something from that. I'm a different person because of that. But I know that I'm better because of what happened to me, because it changed me and who I am today. Right. So I understand that perspective. So I'm trying to figure out the forgiveness part, because, or maybe like you said, forgetting instead. I don't
have never forgotten.
Sure.
But I have 100% forgiven, because each person has free will of choice. They had a choice to do right and not hurt me in the ways that I was hurt. Or they had a choice to do good as a step parent, as a babysitter, anyone. You know, they have that choice to teach somebody and be kind, or to be rude and hateful and turn into a monster.
Right.
That's a choice. They didn't come here to specifically ruin my life. They made a choice, and they could have chosen. So knowing what I learned from those situations and the catastrophic moments of survival that I've had to learn to go through and survive has allowed me to gather the tools I need to teach other people. Okay. So I've turned it into something, I can't even call it positive, because there's nothing positive about being physically beaten, tied in a trash bag, or sexually abused. There's nothing positive about that. But because the positive that I gained from it is the fact that I am a strong, faithful individual because of it, sure, I will teach other people how to not let it rot them.
Okay.
Because that's what it does.
And do you allow part of it is, could you say that you, by having said that it was their choice, their free will of choosing that, it wasn't necessarily had to do anything directly with you. You remove yourself kind of from that. That was their choice,
That was
good or
their
bad.
path.
That was their path. You just happened to be in the way.
I was a victim of it.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, every
that's
one of us
understandable.
becomes a possibility to be victimized at any turn.
Sure.
And some people have the ability, once things happen to them, to choose to keep being victimized. You read about my mom, who I love absolutely dearly, but my mother tried to help so many people, and I believe was continually victimized through her life until that 4 months where we showed her everything beautiful.
Right.
So we made her realm before her death amazing, without any sadness, without any anger, without any victimizing moments.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. I can understand it a lot better. That makes sense.
What I was going to ask you earlier, and we always go down these rabbit holes.
Okay.
So I might start with, I really want to ask
Yeah.
you this question, and then I never get there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to come back. We're going to loop back around. Before the incident with the lightning, were you an extremely religious person?
I was, when I died, I found out I was what was called a gatherer. Catholic, Lutheran, baptized Baptist at 16, went through as much learning with the Native Americans, the Tlingit Indians in Alaska, as well as Eskimo. I wanted to gather and learn everything I could about God. I went to any church when we were children because we knew they had cookies and juice. And so we just fit in everywhere. So even though we had our own church that we went to, you would often find us three running around town just boundlessly going. So yes, we learned our religion, and we learned faith, and we learned survival. And then when I died, I found that all of those things mastered into one thing, and that was that I never lost faith in anything. I was always gathering more to find out how to make myself stronger to survive the next thing in my life.
Because I asked that question because I feel like there are going to be people who listen to this or see this or have read the book, and they think, okay, yeah, did she have this experience because what was her story beforehand? Because if she was super Catholic and she has this idea of what heaven's going to be like, and then this happens, this kind of goes along with this.
I actually would have to say, I get asked this a lot. It was nothing that I would have expected it to be because of all the things I learned. I was kind of wondering which one of those would it be.
Oh, interesting, because you'd seen lots of perspectives.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And so actually seeing it the way it was absolutely delightful and enlightening to me. It gave me a stronger sense of myself that when I come back, I understand not judging. I mean, truly 100% of me, you won't see me judge any one person's choice of their religion because it's each of us, if we're born into something, that's what we're taught. So we're not ever taught that it's much larger than one dot in the picture.
Right.
You know, and you read dot to dot, so you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's big. It's much bigger than we think. And maybe our minds just don't have the capacity to imagine and accept that it's way bigger than any of us believe possible.
I think that's absolutely true. I don't think there's any way
So
for us
then
to
we-
really can
So it's much easier to
conceptualize.
kind of dumb it down.
Yeah.
Don't you
Yes.
think?
And in a sense, definitely, and categorize it. Let's have each category be a part of the big picture.
There, I
Right.
understand it. I've dumbed it down. I feel safe.
And I don't knock any person's choice. I mean, I'm faithful, I'm Christian, I'm Catholic, I'm Lutheran, I'm Baptist, I'm Native, I'm all. But I'm also just a child of God trying to help people find their way to a better healing place in life before time is over.
Now,
Sure.
I didn't read that book, which I've said a few times, but I did read this one, Life After Lightning. And from that, I gathered that you got struck twice. Okay. So I liken it to this. I am so deathly afraid of great white sharks of the
He's
ocean.
not, and he's
of
not
the ocean.
kidding.
Yeah.
Me too.
Now,
I don't
I've-
go in the water.
I got my scuba qualification when I was in the military, when I was in Haiti. So I've kind of faced that fear, kind of like, all right, whether I'm in 6 feet of water or 60 feet of water, I'm done. If something wants to come get me, I'm done.
Right.
So that's just still so terrifying. But
I send him pictures and
if I
videos
were
all the time.
to put myself into your position,
Right.
it would be like me getting attacked by a great white shark.
Twice.
Which
And
is more
then-
likely than getting struck by lightning twice for sure.
I've heard that.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, after I get attacked, I'm like, you know what? I got to get back in the water.
Gotta
I
overcome
have
my
to
fears.
overcome this.
Makes
I
sense.
just have to get past this fear. I step into the water, wham! Hit by a great white shark again. That would be it.
That would
I
be
wouldn't
it.
leave my home.
Yeah.
I would never leave dry land
Yeah.
ever. I wouldn't get on a yacht. Nothing. If there was a possibility of me getting wet, no.
I spent a good 5 years of trying not to leave my home.
Well, and see, I don't have any fear of lightning, but it was kind of ironic that I read the book and then last night I can't sleep. I'm sitting there staring out the window while
There's a
lightning's
lightning
striking.
storm.
I'm going, okay, this is a little creepy. I don't like this at all.
But so much more terrifying for you. For me, I'm safe on land. Huh, I'm in a building. I'm totally cool. If I walk out to my car, I'm still cool. A great white shark is not going to get me.
Right. Lightning can
I
strike
can't-
10 miles in
I
front of a
can't
storm.
imagine being struck by lightning and just fearing that at any moment it could possibly happen again.
The interesting part of that is when I came back, I had some pretty severe injuries. They didn't really diagnose me with a traumatic brain injury for a good 5.5 months after, but I had one. And it was really actually quite severe because I tried to fake that I knew what was going on, and I really didn't. I would wet my pants. I'd go to the bathroom in my pants. I would get lost. I didn't understand why I was there, what my job was, what I should be doing. My heart kept going out of rhythm, racing. It was, my heart had stopped. You know, it was it still can happen to me, but that wasn't the worst of it. I couldn't chew food. I couldn't get nutrients. My jaw was broken. Like months, I mean, years. Last year's been 23 years this year. They finally finished the bone grafting to fix my jaw. I have had like 12 surgeries on my jaw so that I could open and close and chew food. So I was able to eat an apple last year for the first time. And last year, they amputated my 10th toe. It's just been a cycle. So that first 5 years, I had this injury to my mind that I didn't understand. I remembered everything about my death, but I didn't remember everything about my life. I knew I was missing. And it's like trying to grieve the loss of somebody, but it's even worse trying to grieve the loss of yourself, because something in me knew I was strong and healthy and an amazing soldier. And then here I was, this amazing thought process person in a kindergarten level.
Right.
So you took away that ability of who I was.
And I wrote down notes in here. I was like, "Holy shit! They let her go home."
Yeah,
I still couldn't.
they let me
I
go
couldn't. I
home.
couldn't believe that she got struck by lightning. She went to the hospital. They luckily you're fine, and she went home. She didn't even stay overnight.
Yeah, no,
but
I
you stayed
didn't.
overnight when you fell and got the
board.
the board
in
stuck
my
in
chest,
you, right?
yes.
So I read that part, and it blew me. It blew
All right,
me
hold
away.
on.
But it gave me.
Where in here is there a board stuck in
I'll
your
let you know
chest?
about it in a second.
Yeah.
What it convinces me of is that you have the body, this amazing piece of machinery that's run on electrical impulses, so that
Right.
when you're hit by lightning, I'm not surprised it fries all the circuits, for lack of a
Right.
better term. And then you have the soul, which is you. So no wonder you were thinking clearly and you understood things,
Right.
but the machinery wasn't working
Right.
like it's supposed to.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty easy for me to figure out in my head, and I understood why. Things
it
weren't
just
working.
completely
and-
frazzled, malfunctioned,
Yeah.
and I still struggle with remembering my words. It's really quite a wonder that I've written these books, but truthfully, we just have a really good editor. That the poetry came from me relearning to read and write again. So reading, writing, walking, talking, potty training, all of those things, going back to school at Fort Benning, you know where Splinter Village is then, where you get your further education. I was a soldier student there, And the professors who teach you to extend your education for college started teaching me 1 + 1. So that was like degrading to me, that I knew I should already know this, but I couldn't find the avenue in my brain to put it
The
together.
skill was gone.
It was gone.
And did you
Once I got it, it came back.
Okay, that was my next question. Okay, good.
But I still don't remember people. I have people, I went to Washington. I had people who would come up and hug me and, oh my God, it's great to see you. And I just had to get out of there after a few months because I couldn't explain to them I was that broken. My brain didn't work right.
Is that part of how, or is that part of why it was so hard? Because you have a constant reminder from all these other people.
Yes.
Hey,
So-
you're not.
Until I
person
moved to
you were.
Iowa. Until I moved to Iowa, where nobody knew me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I floundered in it and wallowed in it and just was waiting to die in it. It really was around that 5-year mark that I was just really ready to give up. I mean, physically, my body was a mess. Mentally, emotionally, I didn't think I was ever going to be able to do what I came back here to do, which was help others. And I had this amazing moment where those 3 angels reappeared back to me and said, you're doing it backwards. And first you help others, then it will help you. So I continue to do that every day. I help another person each day. It helps me in return.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like the more successful people are, they have that philosophy. You know, it seems like the people that we bumped into, people who have helped us with this podcast or helped us in other areas, are always like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing to give back to things?
Mm-hmm.
That's the first question. And I was like, oh, we just want to see if we can get this off the ground and see what's happening. We hadn't even thought about that part yet because we're not even sure where we're going, but that makes sense.
We just
Yes.
we just like drinking beer and having conversations with ourselves and meeting interesting people.
Right.
And that's how it started.
That's how it started.
Yeah.
Sure. But then his first question was, how are you going to give back?
Right. I'm bummed to just now hear about your 10th toe because
Hey,
That's a very
I'm
odd
10
statement.
toes short, but I still stand strong.
well, I love the part in Life After Lightning where you're like, I put a
still
ring on
Bling.
my one toe and bling, and you still rocked
I know
it.
it
I
was
like,
a little.
that's so,
It
that's
was
awesome.
a little odd for me to finally let go of that, but it was actually making me quite sick. I had a lot of ulcers that they just kept getting worse and worse. And, I battled and tried to keep my body healthy through that as long as I could. But, it stuck around the longest.
The thing I was going to tell you, the one thing that hit me the most in this book, and I'm going to try to keep myself composed.
Okay.
I was thinking
Are
about
you
it
gonna
earlier.
lose it?
I was thinking about it earlier, and I had started tearing up.
You're a big tough
Was,
CrossFitter.
I know, but I cry easier than you do. Give me a break.
I know.
So, was the aspect of it wasn't the abusive parts. It was the parts of you being left alone with your siblings, and then the overwhelming feeling of comfort and security being with your grandparents.
Yeah.
I had almost like I should never say almost, nothing like
You're
that.
talking about
But I'm
Grandma
saying-
and Papa?
Yeah. I mean, I remember those feelings of complete insecurity, complete like, I don't know what is happening, but my grandparents,
Yes.
grandma and grandpa were like, that's where I could go. And I was like, oh, I could actually like relax. And that's what I got from your book. I
Yes.
could actually just kind of like, okay.
Here's my anchor. Here's my foundation.
3 squares a day, a safe place to sleep. Like you can just let go of those things. And I think if I find people or children that I've known or have known over the years, that's like the one thing that's missing. That's almost like the most important thing. I know exactly where this lack of normal stability is in my life.
Right.
I'm being taken care of. I have food to eat. Those kind of things. I mean, I remember going home and making mustard sandwiches. When you talked about if you had the food,
Yes.
I remember climbing the shelves in my mom's kitchen. And this is when I found out there was no Santa Claus. As I climbed the shelves, I was looking at every shelf to see if there was food on it.
Right.
I got to the very top shelf, and there were 2 bags of candy, and it's the candy that she would dump into the toe of our stocking. And so I was like, oh. So not only was I hungry, there was no Santa Claus. It was a double whammy that day. But my brother and I used to make mustard sandwiches all the time. It was the only condiment in the fridge.
Yeah.
And then there was white bread, and so we'd have mustard sandwiches. So it was one of those things, and of course, the same thing. I didn't realize at the time that's what it was. But once you have as an adult, you look back and you're like, So that's what that feeling of
Wow.
like, and maybe that's why I really have my grandfather on a pedestal way up there for me, because we did a lot of fun things together besides that. But and it always makes me wonder too. And I know my grandfather and I had talked about this. He passed away, but he always wondered why he had 6 kids and my mom was in the middle. Why he and my grandmother, he and his wife had this incredible life and this incredible marriage together. He was a Methodist minister and was for 60 years. And then, but all of his kids, like all of them were, I don't know if it's the time or what it was, but all multiply divorced, all just suffered through terrible things. Almost every single one of them had some kind of issue pop up. And he would always say, we did all these things. I wonder why we set up life this way. They had a very fun, loving family. It's like
Good foundation.
Yeah, good foundation, all this stuff. And he always was like, I just don't know why everything.
Where did we go wrong? It's the 60s, baby.
But
Well, I wonder if, what's funny is I wonder if it's the time. Because my mom even says things like, and this isn't, that's why it's not the time. Because she said that she later on realized that if a person walked into the room and she felt an attraction to them, didn't mean she had to follow that attraction. She realized that later in life after she had
So
an
that
affair
goes
on my
back
dad.
to each of us having that free will choice.
Right.
It goes to that moment of you have something. But here's a very good point that I try to make throughout both of these books is your life is kind of like a timeline. We all learn to do one in school for a book report. Picture your own life. Figure out where you are on the midst of that timeline. And I always try to bring awareness to people. Do you think you're at that halfway point or beyond? Because that's when time becomes important.
Sure.
And we start realizing that's where we make the most amount of changes. So if you've actually done that before in your 20s and 30s, started realizing that your life means something and it's got good purpose and intention, you start seeing people change sooner and living a different path in life. Each of us has that on our timeline. We have those years that we have to make mistakes. We have to learn our lessons. We aren't perfect. That's not the purpose of being here. So find those mistakes throughout and then rectify them, fix them, or do better through the next choice on that end of your timeline.
Yeah, and I like the oak tree analogy too.
Yes.
I like the roots part. But see, I'm a big roots guy. I like settling
Yes.
in, man. I love Iowa.
And I can't.
And you can't. But I like the idea of branches.
Yes.
That branch kind of sorry and kind of died because that was not a good path. But there's some big strong ones that
Yes.
are going somewhere. So
Been hit by a couple bolts of lightning and it still
Right,
stands
and it's
strong.
Still standing, yeah, for sure. But I like that analogy of you being a tree that has different paths that
Yeah.
you're on, and they're all happening kind of
And
simultaneously.
if each one didn't happen, then I wouldn't be there to help the person I meant to help,
Right.
and become who I'm meant to be.
yeah,
I
and even
can't
the
wait to
damage
read
to
that
it.
book.
So
It's
it's a burner, man. I was surprised. I was like, okay. So I kind of delved in, and then I know I was finished, and I wrote notes and all kinds of stuff in it, and then, so it was.
That's good.
Yeah, it was a good read.
With the dots.
Yes.
I brought this up to a guy that I used to work with. I used to hate him.
Mhm.
I hate him. I got as soon as I graduated high school, I went into work at a factory right out of high school. And my very first job, the very first machine I learned to run, or I was supposed to learn to run, I was teamed up with this older gentleman. And the very first day, it was at the end of November. So I'm like, I want to break the ice here. What do I have to talk to this guy about? I said, so what are you getting your kids for Christmas? He was a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh,
So for the next at least 3 weeks, he would just bring stuff in, and our relationship deteriorated. And eventually he got me kicked off the machine. I had done something really unsafe, completely legitimate why he kicked me off the machine. But I had resented him so much for that. I had the lowest opinion of this guy, of anybody I knew. Years later, and that was before the military, I worked a few more years at the factory, decided to go into the military, come out of the military. I've been through one marriage, remarried. I have 3 beautiful adopted children. And I had gone back to that factory right after the military. And here's this guy still. And he's doing a different job, and I become a supervisor. And so now we're kind of hanging out. We're not working necessarily as a partnership, but he's like a tool, you know. I use him like a quality control guy. And we become really good friends. And one day I said, you know, Roger, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have my 3 beautiful kids and an amazing wife. And I just want to say thank you. And he goes, I don't know how I'm responsible for any of this. I said, well, follow me. If you wouldn't have kicked me off that machine when I was 18, I wouldn't have gone to this machine, I wouldn't have met this person. And that person was instrumental in me going into the military because he had been in the military and he had these stories, and it got me kind of jazzed to go see the world. And if I wouldn't have gone, I wouldn't have met my first wife. And if all those things wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be here right now. I might be at that first same machine that you were training me on when I was being a jerk and being unsafe. But that decision that you took got me here. So thank you. And that, I mean, we were already decent friends at this point, but then it just took our relationship to a whole nother level of not like, I shouldn't say like father-son type of a thing, but just this mutual respect of him thinking, finally, this kid's kind of grown up, and I really appreciate what you just said to me. So when you mentioned the dots in Life After Lightning, I was like, oh, yeah,
That
I've
picture
lived
of
that.
your life.
I've seen that. I don't apply it all the time, but yeah, if my, you know, who I am today, do I wish my father hadn't been the dad he was when I was younger and did what he did to my mom, which can relate? Yeah, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but I wouldn't be who I am.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't have had a very deep conversation with my family just last night about anger issues. So I know you said nothing positive. There's nothing positive about those events because they're traumatic and they're horrible.
But they did make me who I am.
But they do make you who you are, and that is the positivity about it, and I love that.
It happened, so you can make the worst of it or you can make the best of it.
Yeah.
But the people that I most cross paths with are the ones who didn't find the tools needed to deal with it, and I want to help them make that survivor positive road in their life.
Right.
You know, here's Life After Lightning. People call it a box, like a toolbox. People read that, then they read Destination Heaven, then they go back and read Life After Lightning again, because once they read that, they realize they need more tools out of that first book. It's all about sharing the knowledge that you gain. I mean, truthfully, I could still be sitting in my house or I could be dead. You know, I could have chosen to absolutely not believe what happened to me and rebel against it and totally walked a different path.
So still to this day, your memory of the afterlife is still
Vivid,
completely
vivid. More so than anything in my living life. I still ask her, what did I do? Where are we supposed to be? What time are we leaving? You know, my sidekick and I couldn't imagine walking this and helping as many people as we are without her, because we work as a team together. Right. And I can talk about my story because I know it like a roadmap.
That's a beautiful thing. I wish I had somebody like that.
You do.
She will laugh at me if I fall down. Then she'll help me up. You know.
Well, he was talking. He was like, "Hey, did you?"
I called him.
Did you know that she was really injured by this? I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "Is she gonna make it up all those stairs?" And I was like, "Well, I'll help if we can." And then she hands me her. She goes, "Will you mind carrying this?" I'm like, "Sure, I can carry it." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm not a small person, and this is a heavy bag." Yeah, so good on you. That's
when I started, I don't know
training.
why I called him and I said, "Dude, I don't know why I never thought of this." But she has some physical issues
Yes.
that she's going to have to deal with, and I'm really nervous.
I held on to the handrail.
Yeah, you did
and
great.
I was like, wow, how many more flights are we going?
Well, you know what?
We
We're
carried
kind
these
of
walls
Yeah.
up those flights.
yeah, we
And
made
that
those
was-
in my garage.
That was a
But-
doozy.
Oh.
part of physical therapy is always learning to walk up and down stairs because
Oh.
especially having no toes,
Right.
that it's harder, you would think, walking up the stairs, but truthfully it's harder walking down them
Oh, I bet.
where your forward momentum.
Right. And isn't your big toe like
It's a
Your
big-
balance?
It's a
the
big deal.
biggest
Yeah.
part of your balance?
Do you have is there like a prosthetic on the front of your foot then or no?
I don't. If I
don't.
wear sandals just for my own vanity, I can wear my fake toes and
Oh, okay.
probably make some money sometime.
But there's nothing that really helps you out with balance necessarily.
Not really.
Okay.
It's all in thinking. I count when I walk. I pay
Mm.
attention to each step. Like coming up, I didn't quite have my foot, and I was like, "Oh, stairs are skinnier," so I have to pay attention to where that was. That's why I let you all go first.
Sure. Well, and those stairs you can tell are worn in the middle because this building was built in early 1800s, and so they're all worn in the middle and sharper on the edges. So I was like, I almost said something, but then you were going up the sharper edge part, which I thought would be better
Mhm.
stability.
See, I'm glad you went down to greet him because I would have been like, no, you go first.
I would have
And I'm
made
just
her
gonna
come
follow you.
and figure out where you were before I ever ventured.
Oh, I bet.
You go find them.
I marked a spot in here. What's funny is I've almost hit on every point in progression,
have.
not
Not even
even on
trying.
purpose.
Yeah.
To be a kinder person to others without judgment or their status or circumstance.
Mhm.
I highlighted that I was wondering, do you ever feel like, do you get to or have you ever gotten to a point where you've been around somebody and you've been the example, you've treated them kindly, you're kind of the model, hey, I'm not going to tell you how to be, but this is how I should, I'm treating you this way. And after a while, that person's just kind of like, they're not learning, they're not getting it. And you're just kind of like, I can't do this anymore. I appreciate who you are, but you're not figuring it out. So I got to go. I mean, have you done that before? Have you dealt with
Yeah,
that?
I have.
She says it in this book.
Oh, she does. Okay.
Yeah.
I know my clock is ticking. I know that time is everything to me. And I know that I don't have the opportunity to waste it. So I'm 46 years old now. This happened to me when I was 23. It's been 23 years. I know that there are 1,000 people who need help. And if one of them's going to sit there and I'm going to keep going over the same subject matter, telling them the same things, 500 different ways I could word it, I got to say, it's time to take a break. I don't ever want to give up on somebody because I don't think that's a purpose, but sometimes pushing back from them and separating makes them go, wait a minute. Maybe it's time I get it together.
Right.
And then it happens and
Okay.
the people come back around and I might cross paths with them later. There are also people that I always say that I'm sometimes just incapable. I'm not the one to help you. I pray that God sends somebody stronger
Right.
to carry you through what you choose not to get through. I always look at each person that I meet as having a reason to meet them every single day. There's no accidents to me. Every day I wake up, I feel my body. I'm like, yes, I'm breathing air. Today's a good day. I make sure my feet can hold my body weight and try to get walking on them. And then what can I do today? Every single day. Now, that's not to say I don't have some days where I'm just like in my pajamas all day because I don't want to go anywhere. I'm just tired of mixing energies with people. I just
We're working
need a
so
break.
hard just to be
Functioning
and
helpful.
moving. Yeah.
And I just want to help so many people, but some days I just have to help them over the telephone, write another book.
Or help yourself for a day.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
thing,
it's
right?
not about me.
No.
No, it's not. It's about what I do for others then helps me.
Okay.
So
Sure.
I always make sure at least once a day I'm helping somebody
right.
do something. And, each of those books was written in an approximate 90-day, 3-month period. So,
Of each
You're
other?
a good writer, by the way.
Thank you.
Your editor? I mean, do they just? I mean, it's very. I mean, it seemed like it was straight from your voice. I didn't feel like there's any inconsistencies.
yeah,
It was
that's good.
well written.
That's good. Thank you.
We've had a couple of authors on.
Jillian Rutledge, by the way, is my editor. She works at Waverly, so you could reach her.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
But some of the authors, one of my good friends, he wrote a book and he had an extremely hard time. It was a you going through what you've already gone through,
Mhm.
the lightning and the PTSD and all these issues, and then you go to write a book. My friend is perfectly healthy,
Mhm.
very young guy, no issues. But he goes to write a book and he's thrown all of his passion into it, and it goes nowhere. You send out those
Mhm.
letters, and what is it? You're supposed to sum up the
Your
whole
sample,
book
yeah.
in a page, and he goes, "My book is 600 pages.
Mm.
How can I?" It's a fictional book and
Make
epic,
it into 3.
very epic.
Make
Yeah.
it into 3.
and he goes, it's so time consuming, and it's so gut wrenching to not hear anything or to
Mhm.
get turned down. He goes, so I finally just created my own publishing company,
Sure.
and he published it himself. Was that hard for you, this process
No,
to get the
because-
book, or did people go, oh, well, you got hit by lightning, I want her?
Well, this is an interesting story. My son had an accident, an ATV accident. I had been writing that for about a month. And I was sitting there. We had Lisa, who is my publisher, my friend Vic, who came, and we were all 3 working on him because he broke his back and his pelvic. So twice a day, Lisa and I would work on massaging this 4-foot hematoma on his body. And so I just said, oh, somebody had asked me what I'd been doing lately, and I said writing. And so I got my computer out and I started reading what I had been writing. And I look up because it's dead silent in the room, and it was, you wrote that? It was overwhelming. So Lisa jumped on board really quickly and published it. And so her and I have traveled with publishing and doing the books ever since. Within the second year, put another book out.
Awesome.
Was that your first time publishing?
Yes.
Was it daunting?
There was a lot to learn.
A lot to
A
learn.
lot in a short period.
How about you guys' relationship? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
How do you guys get connected?
Initially, I also had a really traumatic physical injury myself that I had to overcome. And we both had the same massage therapy, or therapist, Vic, who she just mentioned, and said that us 2 girls had a lot of
Had to
similarities,
meet.
and we had to meet. So eventually we did, and that was
Who knew?
Thank goodness for Vic. Holy
Yeah.
cow, that's awesome.
Smart lady.
Yeah. Yep. We've had some pretty amazing things. A lot of things have happened in both of our lives that are parallel, similar. And our kids went to school together and were friends. And we didn't know each other
Oh, wow.
just for 5 years that I saw Vic,
and
and she
people would
saw,
ask, "Which sister are you?"
Yeah, which sister are you? Like we
I
were
don't have a
related.
sister.
And
Oh, wow.
we had the same color vehicle. We both had a white Tahoe. People would really literally, hey, Lisa. And I'd be like, no, I'm Beth. Back in,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's really curious. I like that.
So
that's
when we
fun.
did meet, I was like, do people ask you which sister
Oh,
are
yeah.
you?
All the
Because they
time.
all the time ask me that.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
How
So we
unique.
probably lived in the same town for 10 years and didn't know each
Didn't
other
know.
at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
And we act like sisters.
yeah, we do. We really work well together, though. But she'll go take surfing lessons while we're on book tour in Florida, and I just stay watching the water, watch the dolphins
That would
jump
be
by.
me.
I'm with
Yeah.
you. I'd be in the water
Yeah,
for
no.
sure.
I'd be like,
Totally be
oh,
like,
yeah, it feels kind of
There's
nice.
stuff out there that can eat you. I fished in Alaska. I know what kind of big fish are out there. I'll eat those fish and
You and
fish for
I.
them, but
I feel like
Well-
you and I are very
And I sent that. And I sent the video.
we're earthbound.
The video of that surfer getting hit
yeah,
by the
yeah.
shark. I sent that to him, and
Yeah.
his wife.
Sweetly
His
like-
wife goes, "I hope he does not see
Yeah,
this
you sent that
video
on Facebook.
It's like, I tagged him in, and I'm pretty sure he'll see it. Well, one time we were watching. Was it like this? This is like at least 15 years ago. We were roommates. We were watching. It was like a Discovery Channel thing, and there was a wave coming on the ocean with the sun behind it, really beautiful, and it was full of sharks.
Yes, you could
and
see
he goes,
it through it.
those are dolphins, right? Really scared. I'm like, no, those are sharks, dude. He's like, no. I'm pretty sure those are dolphins. It was like total rejection of reality. It was the
Yeah,
best.
and then you got me a coffee mug that when you fill it up, you take a drink, a shark comes out.
It has
of
a
as you
shark's
tip
head
it.
at the bottom. I got you shark playing cards. I get him all
Yeah.
kind. I get him shark everything. It
Yeah,
seems
I
like.
love that part about you, by the way. It's really awesome.
Good friends.
It's all about the love.
It is.
There's a lot of things in Life After Lightning. Life After Lightning, I liken it a lot to something I read a long time ago. What color's your parachute? Kind of. Okay. Like, what are you meant to do? What's going to make you happy? Figure out who you are and then go forward with that, because a lot of people just get in this mode, this track, well, I got to pay my bills. I can't just up and quit the factory.
Right.
I like this part of your book. I just talked to a guy the other day, and I said, "Are you all right, by the way? You don't seem like yourself. Normally you're a complete goofball, smile on your face, making a joke about everything. And you seem very mellow." He goes, "Well, my first wife is putting me through the courts again for custody." And he goes on this spiel for about 25 minutes. And what I said to him was, it sounds like you're putting all of the choices. You sound like a victim right now. You're putting all the choices in either your first wife's hands or the judge's hands, or you're blaming the county for making you go through a class, or you're blaming your kids because your oldest is acting this way and she's saying, maybe I want to go live with mom now, or your second wife. I go, everybody else, you sound like everybody else needs to make a decision so that now you can find your place in the world. Mm-hmm. I'm going to read a little bit from your book.
Go ahead.
It really is difficult to pursue the positive in your life, especially when you are swimming in circles of negative thoughts you have created from your own doubt. Which, by the way, is on page 89. I really liked that because it makes so much sense. That this book, there's so many common threads that I've either heard throughout my whole life, or I read one passage and I go, "Hey, that's Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live.
Heard of it.
I'm good enough. Okay. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me." You had put in here, write yourself a note,
Yes.
look in the mirror and say something positive to yourself. And that's what Stuart Smalley, this character from Saturday Night Live, would do. And he was just really hilarious, this skit. And so I saw a lot of life lessons that all of us kind of hear, and you put all of that into the book.
Maybe takes 5,000 times to hear them
Exactly.
until you hear it right.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
But I liked reading that part because I think people get too wrapped up in wanting to feel like a victim. Mm-hmm. It's so much easier.
Because you get more attention.
And blaming others.
Yes.
Yeah,
Then you don't have to have
Situation.
ownership of it. And it's easier for you to exist and swim in that, so people pay attention to you. It's like the child who does something wrong for negative attention. They get used to getting attention from doing something wrong. So instead of teaching them to do it right and praising them that way, we really generally as society pay attention to people who are doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. We're so quick to jump on board.
Sure.
Why are you doing it wrong? Instead of, that is awesome. You are doing such a great job with that. And I am a focus person. I want my kids to know they can do anything. They have the ability, the choice, it's up to them. Make it happen. Nothing is impossible unless you say it is.
Right. And we talk all the time about it's E, the channel E on it's entertainment news on cable.
You
it is
you love it.
It is a judgmental television station. It's not just the shows that are on it. The station itself is
Bravo.
No, Bravo's not it. It's E, that it's all judgment. Mm-hmm. It's all TMZ, trash, Kardashians, but all those shows are just negative all the time. I mean, I think I've gathered that. I think Bravo actually has some good shows on it. But E seems
you like some of the shows. I personally don't like either one of those channels.
Oh, okay.
Because I think both of those channels are exactly the same. Oh. Exactly. Or Housewives of Orange County, flipping it. It's all about that's my wife.
They're very judgmental. I mean, they're movies, they're TV shows that just focus on people making mistakes. Yeah. And judging everybody.
So that's where people think that negative attention is what they need.
Right.
They'll follow suit to get that attention.
Yeah. Yeah. Tabloids. I mean, it's like they're like tabloids on television all the time.
I think the other reason maybe that people want to play the victim card, or they want others to make the decisions, because then when things don't turn out great, you can say, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah. You
It was
blame.
your fault,
Yep.
Lisa, because you had to make the decision. That decision was wrong. How do you feel now?
Yeah.
Dumb, right?
We've got some pretty dual ownership on some of the fun things we've done that didn't quite pan out. But we were like, well, let's find the next avenue.
Right.
It's all in how you wake up each day. We all put our socks on the same way, and we get up, and each of us will live a different life. Mine's a totally positive directional life, and if I mess up, I own it, and off I go to the next thing.
Right. And you use it as a way to learn from something.
Definitely.
You don't sit there and wallow in
It's
the
like
mistake
gathering
you
more
made.
pieces to your puzzle.
Right.
You can only put a puzzle of the picture of your life together if you get out there and gather something. Otherwise, it's just this black scene.
Right. My oldest turned 21 today. And
Really?
today's his birthday.
Oh, happy
Happy birthday.
Junior's
Junior.
birthday is today. But he's in Biloxi, Mississippi. He's in the Air Force. Excuse me. And he asked me, because I'm 44, and he goes, oh, so you've already gone past your midlife crisis. We were kind of joking around about that. I was like, I didn't really have a midlife crisis. I had enough crisis in my life,
Yes.
right, to have to find an age to do that. And so I said, I feel like every single year is better.
Mhm.
I feel like I know enough. I can look. I remember even in my 30s, looking back and going, just embarrassed about choices that I made 10, 15 years ago that I'm still worried about or still have, feel guilty about it or whatever it is. And I said, as I get older, I just realized that they really just don't matter as long as I learn from them and I just move on. I can just let
That's
it
the
go and
truth.
say, I learned from that. Now I'm here. And I said, I'm hoping that as I get older, it's just going to get better than that. And I
Yes.
realize that every mistake is a learning opportunity. And I think that that's something that would be important to teach our kids too. Oh my gosh, I did this wrong. Oh, who cares? Just try your best not to do it again if you can.
Right.
I can't keep buying iPads, if you keep breaking them. But but I mean, you can just learn from it. And I think I heard a story. This is years and years and years ago from my dad, who's a teacher.
All right. So it's
And he
nothing
has-
we can verify.
No, nothing you can verify. Had a story of a mom who came downstairs, and a kid had gotten the milk out of the refrigerator and had dropped it, and there was a gallon of milk all over the floor. And she came downstairs, and they played in it. She made it
That would be
seem
Lisa.
they played in it because it was like, well, it's just, you don't want to keep spilling milk, but it's not like every mistake you make is some catastrophe that we have to have, you have to be in trouble and be grounded or whatever your punishment is. And even now I'm like, that's a little goofy, but I understand the philosophy behind it, which I
Yes.
think is pretty wonderful. So
Because I wanted to bring this up.
Ooh, I like the highlighter in your book.
Bing. I know. I mean, I know that you did something fantastic.
Reader's notes pages.
which is the reader's notes. I think that's fantastic, but I like to highlight. So
I'm glad. I think a book should become a person's.
Yeah.
So go back and reference it.
yeah, like a well-traveled journal, something like that. Okay.
Roadmap.
Yes. All right. So there's so many things that I can connect with you about.
Okay.
You talked about your childhood,
Mhm.
the military experience. I can connect with you about, and also the pain issue. And I really liked this because whenever you see a more dramatic example of yourself, a good example, and you're like, okay, look what they're doing.
Mhm.
Look how she's able to get by. Look how she puts her mind into
Over
what.
matter.
Yeah. I'm going to read another little thing. Page 113 out of Life After Lightning. This has to do with pain and pain management. Gain the upper hand on your pain. First, you must decide to be in control of it and not allow it to control you. She also says pain can be physical, emotional, or mental. No matter the reason for it, pain still has to be looked at and dealt with in order for you to productively exist in your life. You go on to say, it is a choice. Either exist in the pain or search to find acceptable ways to really live through the pain. You have the upper hand in your relationship with it. Don't allow it to have the control over you.
Mhm.
So I blew my knee out a few years ago, and it has always been, which is nothing compared to what you've gone through, which I love because I can look at you and go, I'm really mentally weak. And I have a long way to go. I can humble myself, and it's great because I don't allow myself to do certain things that I used to love to do. I used to love to go running. I used to love to be extremely active.
I used to like to run a little bit here and there too, especially being in Alaska with a bear chasing you. You had to know how to run. But I really don't run now unless a pack of coyotes is chasing us in the desert. I really just don't. She says, I didn't even know you could run. So, when you have to, your mind takes over, and that mind over matter says, yes, you could still run.
Sure.
Well, that hit a chord. That played a chord for me personally with the pain. But I'm also reading it thinking of my father, who's getting up there in years, and he's had we've talked about it recently on the podcast a few episodes ago, of finally seeing your parent as not a superhero anymore. They finally withered away. They're finally vulnerable. And it shocks you to your core for the first time to see them like that. And my father and I had a long conversation about how are you going to live the rest of your life? Because right now you're on all these pain meds. You can make excuses. You can just sit here, or you can get up and you can go for a walk and you can rediscover life. His whole life has been about, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to work overtime. My job as an alpha male is to bring home a paycheck. And if I do that, no matter how I treat people, I'm a great person. I'm really hoping that doesn't come across. It shouldn't come across in the microphones. But finally, he's at a point physically in his life where he can't do what he defined as who he was his whole life.
So you have to help him redefine that he still has a purpose.
Right. And I'm going to give him this book to read, because managing that pain and saying, okay, I can't get away from it. So how am I going to get the best out of life with it? Which I thought way too often, myself included, I play the victim role. And I go, well, can't play kickball anymore because that's what blew my knee out to begin with. I was just playing with my little kids, 5-year-old kids. It's not like I was really competing hard. I was just jogging gently to first, and there went the knee. So
you find something new, put yourself into a new direction of your life, learn something different. You already did kickball.
Right.
So you got hurt. Now go on and do something else.
There's so many neat little life lessons that it's not just about, with your book, let me feel better about death. It's not just about how did she overcome that. It's not just about PTSD. There's all these. it's really
a toolbox.
You've really lived a really deep life. Some people just get all the way through life and they're like, well, I worked, I had a marriage, I had some kids, nothing really traumatic happened, I never really traveled anywhere.
Sounds sad.
And I'm done.
Yeah.
Very blah.
I just couldn't imagine laying in bed like that.
But they feel blessed that they didn't have any trauma in their life. Most of the time when I talk to people like that, they're like, I had a really good life. I didn't have any trauma. I didn't have any disasters, catastrophes. I'm like, good for you. Me, I felt like I got pushed off the mountain quite a few times.
Right.
I had to climb back up.
Well, and I guess it's not our place to judge somebody. Well, I didn't have any trauma in my life, but did you live a good life? Did you enjoy your life? And if I sat back and I was like, I had a job, if I was laying in a bed going, boy, I really didn't do very much, that sounds depressing to me.
That would be to me too, because I have something to compare that to.
Right.
I mean, I don't look at my life in any kind of negative, feel sorry for me kind of way. I'm like, hey,
you say that a lot in your book too.
I experienced this, and I'm just grateful to be here breathing air and sharing the tools with you to help you get through. It doesn't mean you have to get hit by lightning. I can share the story with you so that maybe you'll gather that tool and get on with it. Quit wasting the days. Can't you hear it say tick-tock? Every moment. I hear that clock. I know that time is ticking by, and I feel that I have to grasp things and run with them a whole lot more. I didn't even think this was necessary for me. You can cut this out, but
okay.
I really last night was like, I just don't see the importance of this. I don't want to do this. There's nothing funny about my story.
Yeah, we were in a conversation. There was silence.
Oh, yeah.
I was ready to email you and say, I don't know if this is.
Well, I was
work.
supposed to meet you first. I was supposed to, PTSD creeps back in on occasion.
Sure.
I don't like people to, yes, I can stand up and talk to, I shouldn't say I don't like people. Don't take that wrong. When I know what I'm going and I'm going to talk about and I'm doing it, yes, she said it. My sister said it. You do it every day, but it's different. I've never done this before. And I don't know what to expect from funny people. You read it. I had that humor beat out of me as a kid.
Right.
I don't know how to laugh and make jokes and
But you do.
But you do. And I see
but I
in
don't feel like
my
I do.
experience was the opposite of when things went bad for me. The only thing I could do to cope with it was be funny or try to find some humor in it or fight.
Right.
So there are things that still happen once in a while that just normal life stuff. And I chuckle because I have to go, okay.
That was part of my own personal therapy too, was just to find the humor in
Right.
the pain and suffering that I had gone through. I mean, it was.
because her mother laughs like you could hear her probably from heaven to here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not joking you.
For real. For real.
So to hear her laugh, sometimes I still sit there and like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be laughing. It's a little delayed reaction because we just didn't laugh. We would just get,
And you got serious trouble when that happened.
just like, I don't even like to think about it. So it was hard for me to even teach my own kids how to laugh.
Well, they've said that like laughing is very similar to crying. It's a release.
And I don't
So-
cry either. Very rarely do I cry. I have learned to cope with that severe level of pain that very rarely do I let anything affect me up or down the other way.
Do you feel comfortable now? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I was fine as soon as I made it up the stairs. I think that took all that energy out of me.
How long? I wanted to ask you. I'll just call him Papo because I think
Papo, yeah. It's Papo.
Papo. Okay.
Papo.
Well, when did you get a chance to know him more when as an adult, or was
Oh, yes.
how long was he alive for?
He lived into his 90s, I think,
Oh,
like
sweet.
98. Every time I would sneak back into town, and truly, when I say sneak back into town, I would go see my birth grandfather, Jack, who served in the military, and my grandma Marie. I would go see them, and then I would sneak up, and wherever my papa was, I would go visit him. And sometimes he was out chopping wood. I mean, the guy would hug me for a full 5 minutes and he'd just cry. And I'm so glad I got to see you again before I'm not here. And, that went on many years that
good.
he was just grateful every time we'd get back together. And he'd tell everyone, she saved my life.
Right. Well, I mean, again,
He saved mine first.
I was gonna say his little rescue of you and your sister. I mean, it was one of those moments like if you saw
rearview mirror.
if you saw it in a movie, if you saw it in a movie, you'd be like, yes, they made it. Oh my gosh! I mean, it was one of those moments where because last night I was in between
You weren't done with it,
crying
right?
episodes,
Yes, You weren't
done
and I'm
with
sitting there. And my youngest came up and it's like. You all right, Dad? I'm like, oh, I'm good. I'm good, buddy. I'm like, I'm fine, and I'm okay. Don't worry about it. He's like, okay, you look like you're sad. I'm like, no, I'm not sad. I'm just.
We'll get you one.
Well,
Yeah.
you said.
We'll flip. Did you
No,
bring-
we'll share.
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
share.
you guys
can
Fine.
share.
Yeah, I want you to sign it too. But I mean, I was just hoping that I know that you guys did things for each other when you were younger, and I was hoping that you got a chance as an adult to be able to connect with him too.
Yes,
So that's awesome.
yes.
Good to hear.
Yep. And, it was him who, when my grandma died, that I just put that 4 months of commitment into helping save his life because
through
what he
that.
had done for me. And when I was in heaven and got to stand beside my grandmother, I mean, we got to view those times with Papo.
Together, that was a
grandma and I.
great part of that book. Yeah.
One of the greatest things I think about hearing her story, and trust me, I've heard it 100,000 times. But every time she talks about heaven, she just lights up.
It makes me teary.
lights up.
I get teary when I talk about it. I get enlightened. It's people still say they can see heaven when I talk about it. They can see it on my face because I change. My voice changes. Everything about me, the energy, and I talk faster. And because what I talk about it, what I'm seeing is it.
If it's as vivid as you just said
Yeah.
too, I mean, it's very much alive still
Yeah.
within you. So that makes sense. And I love. We already talked kind of brushes order, but the interception of life.
Yes.
I like that idea of instead of saying something traumatic happened or something dramatic happened or some terrible thing happened, you had an interception in life. I love that idea, so that you could take that as an opportunity to change or learn something from it. I thought that was really cool.
And that's what they told me it was, an interception of my life, to give me a choice to stay in the peaceful afterlife or to come back and help others. I mean, that was a pretty big weight on my shoulders. But when I was standing there, my light was all full and I'm all healed.
Right.
Spiritually, I was healed. That was the interesting part. Before I was a soldier, my body was strong. So spiritually, when I died, my spirit was healed. And then I went back into my body like that mayonnaise jar, and my body was broken. So I was just trying to become a different kind of soldier then, to help people and fulfill that promise that I made.
Did you have any conception or thought about the idea that the time lapse of you being in heaven in human time?
I asked them if they froze time. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I caught that. But I was wondering, how about, did you?
It felt like I was gone
a long time.
For a long time. You got to imagine, we started at 2 years old when I had whooping cough. And we went through that life review up to the point of being hit by lightning. So it felt like, and I would step into those. So it was like I was in it, but I was visually watching it from all perspective angles to give me a full sense of every detail of it.
Right.
Why? What did I get from it? What was it, the lesson in it to teach me? And how do I gather it all so I can help others through it?
There's your third book.
Yeah.
Life in Review.
Yeah.
You could do your own life in review, and you can help people learn how to go back and view those things in a light that doesn't make them, that makes them more understandable.
Life after lightning. It's kind of that way where I take what's happened to me and other people. See, I don't like to make things just about me, because I came back to help so many people. My life is not just about me. It's about every person I come into contact with, leaving them feeling better than they were the moment before they met me.
Right. Well, and let me tell you that I think just writing the books is obviously a way of doing that, because I know how excited I was to meet you last night. That's probably why I couldn't sleep. I was just like, when's tomorrow going to be here, kind of thing. It's just, and I haven't had that happen before. So that's why I was kind of caught off guard by it. Cause I was like,
well, I haven't had that happen before. So thanks.
Hey, Todd, what is that movie? What's the movie where it's like? Is it a Mel Brooks movie where the guy passes away? And is it Meryl Streep? Is she
something
in it?
Your Life, Reviewing Your Life, something. It's Albert Brooks, and she's up for an Oscar every year. What's her name? Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. I just said Meryl
You said
Streep.
Meryl Streep. Yeah, Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. Reviewing My Life, or Reviewing Your Life is what it's called. And
I've never heard of that either.
He goes to heaven, and dude, that is really insightful, because it is literally what you talked about, except it's more of like a jury that you're sitting there watching them, and they're deciding whether you get to go to heaven or not, because and there's no talk about hell, I guess, but they're deciding whether you get to go to the next level on how you lived your life. You do it without fear, with love, and all these things.
That's interesting, because when I first arrived, I arrived at a garden area, and then a staircase ascended and appeared, and we walked up into the clouds, and just then I was at this place of infinite beauty, just majestic lights and just incredibleness. And as I said in that book, it starts, I hit my own ear.
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. I can even hear it.
Hit yours too when I did that. See, I'm swirling the light just talking about it. It changes me. So it was just incredible. Like, have you ever seen the northern lights, like feel like they're going to just push you to the ground? Anyone?
I haven't seen that. No,
It's
I
on my
haven't.
bucket list.
Yeah. It's okay. That really happens. But up there, it was like they were swirling, and my soul light was just growing brighter and brighter with everything that I gathered and learned. And people were excited for what was going to happen there that day. It was so exciting for the people who had passed before me, my family, my friends. They were there waiting for my decision, but I didn't understand that at first.
Right. It's called Defending Your Life.
I was
with
just
Albert
going to
Brooks
say.
and
I was just
Meryl
going to say
Streep.
Defending Your Life.
And Meryl Streep's the one who is like, she's on her path just to go on, because she did all these wonderful things in her life without a lot of fear and worry all the time, and anxiety.
And he's freaking out. He's in heaven and he's freaking out. Like, what is this about? Did I do something wrong? Well, hey, and he gets really defensive as they're like replaying these moments in his life, and what they're showing is Here's an instant replay of you being super scared.
Uh-huh.
Why did you decide fear was the route you wanted to take?
And it's all kind of
Instead
based on that.
Interesting.
All of it's
fear.
about the fear that you didn't. You made choices based on your
On-
worry
Well, I
and fear
can
of
tell
others.
you, I've never watched a movie or read a book of anything on this subject because I wanted to put my stories out there untainted. When you have
That bug really likes
he just keeps going around everybody.
It's the oil.
When
It's
you
the
really
cinnamon.
have this essential, purposeful life, you have. Where was I? See, brain injury. That's what I was going
You
for.
haven't watched movies or read
Yeah, I
books.
haven't
Yeah.
watched that because I have this
Yeah.
trauma to my brain. So anything that I read, she's so good at helping me figure out where I was, helping me, and I'm still lost. You got to cut this
I think
out.
I think
We
what
gotta start
what
over.
you're talking about is that this movie wasn't an example of your life. You have your own perspective. You don't want to see movies or
Right.
read things that
And
are
I
going to
never
somehow
want
taint
to
yours.
impress.
Right.
into my brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else's story. That's where I was going
Gotcha.
with that.
And I didn't even think of this movie reading your book, but I thought of this movie more of with you and the idea of not allowing all the things that happen in your life to make all these to be
Right.
the catalyst for poor choices.
Mhm.
That's what I thought
See,
of.
now I immediately, boom, I thought of this movie
Oh,
immediately.
I didn't.
Only because when you talk about the dots,
Mhm.
I thought, that's, what choices in my life have gotten me to here.
Mhm.
And my wife and I have done some, I don't know, I guess some silly things. We've gone to psychics, or not gone to psychics. She went and had a reading when we were dating.
Why is that silly?
I don't know, because I think of it as an entertainment.
Mhm.
So she was in, what was it, Montana? What's the name of the city?
Bozeman.
Montana. And so it's her and his wife and 2 or 3 other girlfriends. And they go, we got to go see this lady. We got to go get a reading. It's going to be amazing. So they go, and the lady will only bring in one person at a time. And my wife is very skeptical of the whole thing. And she's like, oh, this is going to be hooey. Everybody's going to come out, and yes, their life's going to be amazing, blah, blah, blah. So one of the girls goes in. She comes back out just bawling. She's extremely upset because this lady said, you're going to have a horrendous medical condition. The guy that you think is amazing is not a prince. He's going to ruin your life. So then my wife was like, I can't wait to see her. There's like some validity. She's like, all right, well, she's not just blowing smoke. So she goes in, and this lady goes, all right, the guy you're dating, I like him. He's going to propose to you this Christmas. She tells my girlfriend at the time all these things, right? By the way, you're going to need to be gentle with him. When he gives you the ring, he's going to have this weird thing about an engagement ring. So you're just going to have to go with it, which I did. I said, listen, I'm going to propose. Go find 5 rings that you like. Write it down on a piece of paper where they're at, which one it is, and give it to me, and then I'll choose. That way you'll still be surprised by what you're going to get. Yeah. But I'm not going to pick it out because I had a bad experience with that with my first wife. So I had this insecurity about rings. So this lady is telling her all this really fascinating stuff. Let's fast forward a few years. So we've done this a few times. Some of the things that this lady has said, we're like, I'm not living by an ocean. We're not by mountains. I'm in Iowa. So that doesn't make sense. But she also said, a child is going to find you. And we've adopted all of our children. And it wasn't us saying, I want that one. Mm-hmm. It was the birth mother choosing us. Mm-hmm. And then the most recent one was my wife went and saw a lady, and she said, I'm just going to tell you, one of your children has an old soul, mm-hmm. and he chose you to be his parents because he had to go through a life lesson. He was choosing to come back to Earth to go through a life lesson, and he chose you to be his parents. He's a very old soul. And when I heard that, instantly I start crying because one of my children is so loving and soft-hearted and wonderful. And for instance, I can become almost monstrous. I'm physically imposing. I yell sometimes. And my one son, and I never would have done this with my father. So I always put myself in his shoes. And there's been times where I've been so upset and I'm yelling. And my son, I think the first time he did this was he was like 6.
Mm-hmm.
He walks over to me and he hugs me and he goes, "Dad, it's okay. It's okay, Dad. It's not a big deal." And steam's coming out of my ears. I've lost it. I've put on the Captain Insano outfit. And he hugs me and does that.
My son, when he was really little, I have these exploding headaches. And he would put his hands on me and say, "It's all right, Mom. I'll heal you."
Wow, that's awesome.
So the question I'm getting to, the thing that I was going to ask you is, do you feel like we have, you've heard of people with past life regression, right?
Sure.
Do you feel like we are truly these entities, this spirit that has been around for a long time, and when we come to this plane of existence, it's something for us to learn. It's something for us to be like.
There's definitely a purpose for your life, a path to walk, a journey to learn. And you gather as much information as you can. You do as good as you can. You give as much as you can. You share. You don't become stingy with, "I learned this and you didn't. I'm keeping that to myself." That's not how it works. For your soul to progress, you share that knowledge and expand that capacity with others. I love all people. I won't judge one single person. They judge me all the time. I told you earlier in this that it's much bigger and much more than any of us here has the capacity of grasping, because it's comfortable and easy to think it only exists in one building, one book, one this or one that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's truly a geographical thing. Each person that's born somewhere is taught a certain background, faith, religion, whatever it is. If I was born in the Middle East, I would have been educated and
that
taught
that would have been your
be
paradigm.
my thought
that's what you would
of
think
all
was
there
true.
was real.
Right.
So it's a geographical thing. I don't fault anyone for that. I love all people. I was asked to come back and help all people. Anyone who needed help, anyone who was put into my path, give them that because they were put there for a reason. Well, I can't judge. Who is that person? There's times I went, really? Yay, me. Okay, here we go. But, that's human. I'm still human.
Right, exactly.
I'm not just this angel on earth with wings growing out my back.
That's actually what I find the most comforting in your books and meeting you and talking to you is, life is hard enough.
Mm-hmm.
But even with somebody who has gone to the other side and witnessed that, still has an extremely vivid memory of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can kind of wash yourself of that and bring yourself back to a happy place. Even you say those first 5 years were so difficult for you that you didn't know if you wanted.
I thought they chose the right person. I was like, I don't know why you picked me, but I really am not strong enough to do this. When I was standing over there, I was all full of great, beautiful love, light, energy. When I came back, like I said, I didn't realize, I was told I would have pain and that the things that happened to my physical body could not be stopped because that was the point of my interception of life. The damage was done. And so I was petrified to even tell anybody any of this for the first while. I thought, I didn't know where the crazy place was, but in my mind, I knew there was one, but I didn't even know the name for it. So I was very hesitant because everything was so picture perfect, vivid for me. It still is. Even though I still had that, I couldn't grasp how I was going to get through the physical side of it. It was overwhelming pain. Like, person could have 100 childbirths and it doesn't compare to the pain that I lived in. And and still till recently was very consumed in my life. I mean,
Well, and I can only imagine the contrast. You
Mhm.
go from this light and this feeling of kind of overwhelming peace and physical tranquility, probably, and then boom, you're back in the mason jar, and it's like on fire.
Yeah.
I remember reading that in the book, going,
Whoa. Yeah.
"How's that going to work?" Yeah, that to me, even I was just thinking about it, going,
And
"Whoa, you went."
I used to sit and think about it, and it just start making me shake the pain of memory of that. But yet I'm in that pain at that moment, and it was just all too much. The nerves, the vessels, the brain, my jaw, my thought process, nothing worked properly. I mean, I would launch the basket down the stairs, and I gave it every bit of anger I had to throw it, launch it, push it, kick it. Rarely kicked it because my feet hurt so bad, but I couldn't walk. I was furious. I was just incapacitated. And I couldn't grasp how being a soldier brought me to that point.
Well, I mean, it makes it more. I think it's more relatable to understand that you still had human reactions, human feelings to things that, it makes it more relatable.
Sure.
I mean, I had people that
that's
you said,
what I was just going to say.
People all the time talk about like Dan Brown, the author. He writes Angels and Demons.
Angels and Demons.
He uses fictional. He uses based on
Some
history,
historical fact,
and then brings in kind of like, what would you say, like made up stories. So he uses true historical facts and kind of makes a story about it. And the first one was about the life of Jesus and his possible marriage to Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
And I said to friends who were very big Christians who hated that book because of that changing of kind of the Bible.
Sure.
I said, well, for me personally, as not a very religious person, I could relate better to him, knowing that maybe there is from the book that's obviously made up. That made it more relatable to me that he might have been married to her. That made him a bigger connection to me, to his life than that way.
I didn't live in that time to tell you the truth as to what it is or it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
But a book is been reinterpreted and been. I still will say this all the time. I don't know the fact. I only know the fact of my own life.
Right.
And where I stood, and when the board stabbed in my chest, I did see Jesus' light come over me. I did see his light when I was in heaven. I know that he existed.
Right.
But everything I knew religiously before I died was wiped out of my mind when I came back. It was gone. I can sit here and try to read a book now. I won't remember it 15 minutes from now, but I remember every detail of my death.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to close things up because children, life. All right. Why do you think, after thousands of years, we still have such a difficult time with death?
It's fear of the unknown. People proclaim to have faith.
Right.
If they have that faith truly to the depth of their soul, then that faith will sustain them to not have fear.
Mm-hmm.
One, we fear leaving the people we love behind. We fear missing out on things because maybe we didn't take the opportunity to live in the moments that we had the opportunity. Flat out, people just really aren't convinced that there really is heaven. And I think they fear death because of that, the unknown, or the ultimate. They've been taught about hell and wonder about, did I do bad?
Right.
Instead of making amends for those choices and changing my life to a better life. Everyone has lessons. Everyone is put in that situation to choose. And I don't doubt that someday I'll have the opportunity to stand next to the person who abused me when they're dead and I'm dead again, and have that little life review conversation if I choose. So I think people fear because of the choices they've probably made, the ones who fear the most, whether they were good enough or whether that one thing they did wrong, did they make up for it enough? Because they're afraid they'll have to answer for that. That's what I think.
All right. Good answer. I like it. All
Right.
right.
Too, and it really helps you realize that you just need to do the best you can.
You have
and
to
live
do
your
the
life,
best.
the life the best you can.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to talk about it. Like my youngest, who's very, he's always bringing up subjects that I'm kind of caught off guard by. But
Inquisitive little fella.
he is. And we had to talk about this the other night at a restaurant. He said about something about dying, and I am always joking around and think about things like that. And I'm like, well, I probably got 50 good years left because I'm 44, so
Yeah.
94. I said, I have the majority. I have in my mind, I have the majority of my life left to live, and I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it, as I kind of stated before. And he was just like, but you're gonna die. I'm like, yeah, it's just the way things. I said,
Circle of life.
yeah, it's just the way things work. And I think if you can get even. And my feeling is personally that if I can get my kids to understand that death is just a part of how things work, period, no matter whether you're a bug on the ground or you're a human being, that's just the way things work. And it's the way the whole system works. You can remove a little bit of that fear, and maybe that will allow them to kind of move forward in a little bit more positive light.
Right.
My mother thinks that's horrible and that I should never talk about things like that, which is maybe why I do it. But I just think it's important that's what I took the most from this was to live your life to the fullest. I mean, it's just
Appreciate every moment.
every moment.
It's
Yeah.
not just a day, it's a moment. A moment could be your most memorable thing in your entire life. One moment.
Yeah, and I think it makes you more aware. I mean, I think sometimes we miss those because
Yeah.
we're not thinking that way.
Right.
Yeah, wonderful stuff.
Well, I can't wait to read Destination Heaven and My Journey Back to Life. Thank you.
I'll hand it over right now. Can I have that one?
Yeah. And
We'll
Life
need to have
After
her sign it too.
Yeah,
So.
and Life After Lightning, wonderful read. It gives you reminders constantly about life is a struggle, and every day, no matter what you're going through, here's a little reminder. Here's some exercises. Here's some things that keep in mind, so that you focus on the bigger picture and the important things, and not get sucked into the negativity. So, thank you, Beth Peterson.
Yeah, and Beth, I
And-
can't state it enough. That, it's been a very long time that I've read a book that's kind of inspired me like that. It was really good.
Thank you very
Really,
much.
Good to
really
hear.
enjoyed it.
And Lisa Barta, thank you for showing
thanks for
up
coming,
today
Lisa.
and coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Really quick, our sponsors, again, go to revolutionrealtyteam.com. Check out them if you want to buy or sell a home or learn how the process works. Again, they do the 5% thing instead of the 7% thing. It saves you a lot of money.
That's a great
You like
5%
that?
thing instead of
5%
7%
thing, commission.
It
Come
saves
on,
you money.
We're talking about commission here.
Yeah.
Come on, people. Or go to Sauce Hockey if you like to wear things that you don't know what they mean. Go to saucehockey.com. It's all about hockey, lingo, things like that. If you love hockey, and if you haven't gone to this website,
Even if you don't like hockey, if you like wearing comfortable
would you let me
t-shirts,
finish my thought?
it's the best.
I swear to
I
God.
get very excited.
You're
I
like
get,
my
I
first
get very
wife.
excited
Just
about
quit talking over me. Sauce Hockey. Go to saucehockey.com. They have really cool hats like that one right there. It's camouflage, kind of a little sauce on there. I like it. Saucehockey.com. Also, Cards Against Humanity. Now, Cards Against Humanity is for horrible people. Not really. I'm not a horrible person, but I like to have an excuse to be horrible at times and laugh about inappropriate things. It's just the way I am. It's just the way I'm wired up. And to get a lot of people together and to have a few drinks, even if it's water. You don't have to be
The last time I
have to be
laughed,
drunk.
that hard was New Year's Eve
With
playing that
my
game
wife
with
and
12
your-
of us. It
Right.
was
There was a belly to belly comment.
he's a very funny guy, but he had me absolutely in stitches and tears for a good 5 minutes, and I almost couldn't recover. My stomach hurt.
Thanks, buddy.
It was great.
But it wasn't me. It was Cards Against Humanity.
No,
so
it
if
was
you want that,
But they're great too.
go to cardsagainsthumanity.com and have a great experience today. And that's it. Oh, by the way, Todd.
What?
All right. So somebody's listening to us on iTunes, or somebody's listening to this episode on Stitcher.
Stitcher.
If you have a Samsung device, Stitcher would be the way to go. Or how else would somebody?
You can go to
Check
YouTube, like my brother often does, goes to YouTube, pulls it up
Yeah.
on his computer, and then minimizes it so he can listen instead of watch, or you can watch it. Also, go to tpspproductions.com. You can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt and Todd. Any of those ways are a great way to listen to us and follow us. And also, when you go onto the website, you'll see a donation key. If you would like to donate to this podcast, what we do is whatever overhead costs we take care of, the rest is given to a local charity. So,
Right. Because we're not greedy.
no.
Because we have other jobs.
We have other jobs. We're
right?
fine. We're okay. Yeah.
And we have sugar mamas. That's just the way I like
That's
to
for
refer
sure.
to my wife.
It is
That's just the way I
absolutely a
like to
true
refer to my
statement,
wife.
whether we like it or not.
Right.
So where can they find my books?
That's another great thing.
That's
If
a
you-
great idea.
If you go to
Beth.
Beth Peterson author.com, which is right here on the screen, you can see Beth's books, her blog, how you shop, her reviews, events, if you want to contact her and have her on your podcast,
Yeah.
because she's pretty fantastic. I really enjoyed this conversation. And you don't need to worry about her going up and downstairs. She's
She
got
can
it.
make it,
She's
man.
got
She's
it.
got it.
Takes
Completely
a little
capable
while.
lady.
We can get there.
A very capable lady. Yes, she
Very
is.
capable, right? All right. Well, that's it on the Primal Scream, everybody. I'm Matt.
I am Todd.
And we'll see you later.
Adios.
Good night.
Is your life savings wrapped up in your 403b? Are you worried you're paying too much in fees? Ask for Matt. Matt Westbury of Premier Investments can help with your 403b planning. Matt's a local guy who will sit down and talk with you about what you want from your retirement and give you simple answers you won't find on a confusing 403b website or at an 800 number. Go to askformatt.com. Securities offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated. Member FINRA, SIPC.